He's out there catching passes. If he gets through the practice, good to go. He's expected to play on Sunday. So we expect him to play on Sunday. And that would be a big deal for this 49ers team.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to someone who was at the Bears game who works in the NFL and said this was the first half, and his text message was like, you can really feel their lack of George Kittle. In the second half, obviously, the run game got going. I don't know if you saw, like, Orlovsky and different people were tweeting some of the sweet run plays, and it's badass, right? But when you add a third element, right, because it's Dwelly in there, but instead of Dwelly, you get Kittle, Juszczyk and Trent Williams combined are Trent's been to 8 Pro Bowls. Juszczyk's been to 5. I mean, we're talking 13 Pro Bowls. And someone in my sponsors is like, stop using Pro Bowls to validate their talent. They don't mean anything. I'm like, yeah, I'm talking about 2 guys that are true Pro Bowlers, right? Trent Williams is a first ballot Pro Bowler. Juszczyk is the only Pro Bowl fullback. Like, you know what I mean when I'm talking about these guys. I'm not using them to talk about Alex Smith. It's just I don't want to look up their all pros. Like, they're elite players, right? But when you add Kittle, who's the best blocking back, I saw today, right before we hopped on, Elijah Mitchell is practicing. So he's going to play this week. Fred Wilson Jr. is back, so they're getting some running back reinforcements, and he was a good player. So you just get better at running back, where Elijah Mitchell, in some of those clips, were like, he's made for this scheme. If the Niners could get a redo on Trey Sermon, they would do a redo because they got their starting running back. But you add George to this for their run game, which is already kind of clicking, it's going to be better. And then, like, let's face it, he's a huge help in the passing game, even if he only catches 5 to 6 balls on a given game. It's usually like 5 for 70, right? With one of the plays being a 20-yarder, but where he takes a guy for a ride for like 7 yards and kind of sets the tone, and then he does this, scoops his mouth, and the fucking team gets going, right? You just miss his, just his violence, his ferocity, he's just an easy target for Jimmy because he's closer, right? Jimmy can be a little hit or miss down the field,
Yeah, and he's big. I mean, we're talking about one of the leading receivers in the NFL.
Yeah, he's Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, and George Kittle are the most talented guys on this team. Especially if you factor in, like, people are a little down on 54, who's having, hit or miss season. But I do think it's a little harder when you got bodies all over you, than he doesn't just get to run free. I'm defending. We lose Haberman. I don't know where guy went. Am I on solo right now? Haberman, where'd you go? Guy, where'd you go?
I actually just closed the browser. It wasn't even, nothing failed. I just closed it. Anyway, but you got bodies all over you.
Yeah, so it's just, you got 3 players, Fred Warner being down, that, you're very dependent on their success, right? When Trent Williams is playing, as you saw those clips, he's tossing bodies. The clip that Orlovsky, that didn't get enough credit, he didn't just grab Roquan, he then threw him to the ground. I mean, it went viral, like Trent Williams is by far the best left tackle in the league.
Yeah.
Well, Nick Bosa has been an elite, no doubt about it, Pro Bowler this year. Like, you don't even need to look at a box score. You just watch him play. You're like, holy fuck, this guy's everywhere. And that's George. And let's face it, like, he is kind of injury prone now. So we've talked about this earlier. Like, are you confident that he's just got the rest of the season in him? It's just the way he plays, he gets banged up. They have to find a way to just get him to play every week, because if they want to make a comeback on this thing, which they can, because the Vikings, I think, play the Ravens this week. Like, the Vikings could just get knocked out. That 7 spot could be wide open. Yeah. And you really just might have to get to 9.
Well, and part of the whole, like, Kittle has effectively 2 years left on his contract, right? Like, this is year 2. $16 million cap hit each of the next 2 years. So what you said, like, even though we are talking about it in the mindset of winning right now, winning next week, this guy is also pretty critical, I'd say, to the development of your quarterback. Like, somebody asked me, you just talk about how do you get this team better for the future? Well, one of the things is, and we talk about it all the time, if you're going to have a quarterback, a young quarterback, part of your job is to surround that quarterback with people that are good. Part of the reason Trent Williams is worth the money he's worth, right? Part of what can make him worth the money he's worth is if he's protecting Trey Lance. If Trent Williams is making his money protecting Jimmy Garoppolo on a sub 500 football team, that's not really getting you anything. But if you're 500 and it's about getting Trey Lance ready for his future as an NFL quarterback, it's a big deal. Like I would say, looking back, the Raiders spent a ton of money, remember, and draft capital on protecting Derek Carr early in his career, and it worked. Now Derek's, time goes on. You don't keep Rodney Hudson. You lose guys. Now it's on him to elevate the team with not as good of an offensive line. But early in a guy's career, and Kittle's the same way. Like part of what makes Kittle potentially worth his money is if he's there every day for Trey Lance, every day for Trey Lance in the run game, every day for Trey Lance in the pass game. Like this is part of the next 2 years of Trey Lance's development. Some critical years for the 49ers.
Yeah.
Is George Kittle being there healthy to help him? Is Deebo Samuel being there healthy to help him? Is Juszczyk being there, right? Is Ayuk being there?
I would sign – one thing I would do this offseason once you get rid of Jimmy's money and you got a little wiggle room with some extra cash, to me, another tight end to go with George. Like Zach Ertz, a free agent. Can I get him 1 year for $8 million, $9 million? Something like I'm in the acquisition business of some firepower that is closer. Like I'm not going to go buy an outside wide receiver. I've already invested in that. I'm not saying don't maybe draft a guy in the second or third round, but I am getting another tight end who can help in the passing game because they are a quarterback's best friend.
And who can take some pressure off of Kittle.
And take some pressure off Kittle, yeah. Look at the three young quarterbacks that crushed it. Really four. But Lamar Jackson, his best, receiving target has been Mark Andrews. Obviously Mahomes, Kelsey's a Hall of Famer. And Josh Allen, Dawson Knox has been awesome. And even, Herbert, he's got two sweet wide receivers, but Keenan Allen runs routes closer like a tight end, right?
And he had Hunter Henry.
But to me, Keenan Allen does like he operates like a tight end.
He's got tight end tendencies, John.
Yeah, he's working guys,
Yeah. Yeah, big targets, guys that can help you erase mistakes, imperfection. Exactly.
Do you think Tedford walked by Wilcox like, bro, you need some Keenan Allens, bro. Go get yourself a Marshawn.
A Marshawn and a Javid Best and a Shane Vereen.
Yeah.
And a CJ Anderson.
And a Mitchell Schwartz and an Alex Mack.
Yeah. And a Kendrick's brother. Which one do they have? Michael?
Yeah.
Or
Eric? And a Cam Jordan. Like they had a lot of NFL talent. You want to win 10 games, you need NFLers.
Yeah. And Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah.
And Aaron Rodgers. So anyway,
that was short lived. They had a lot of shitty ones too.
Yeah, they missed some opportunities. But anyway, that's one of the big things. It's easy to find things to watch for in that game this week, but that would be one of them, John. That would definitely be one of them.
I think the Niners win. I think they win potentially convincingly if Cardinals are in shambles. AJ Green, COVID list. Hopkins, Cliff said earlier this week, he doesn't practice that often either, but he often plays. That hamstring, which kind of clearly got tight last week, I don't think he's going to play. Edmonds is banged up. Kyler's been in a boot. Obviously JJ's out. Like it's just kind of hitting them all at once. These are important fucking players, right?
Yeah.
AJ Green's making a ton of plays for them. Hopkins is just a touchdown machine. Kyler's a star. Like you can't. The Niners have hit this several times. Like you go into a game and just for whatever reason you're missing 7 of your best 10 guys. Like you're just going to lose. If you don't, then Cliff Kingsbury's just coach of the year. Like the Niners lose this game. Like I'm sorry. Like I just
with
Cliff
all those guys out, would losing this game be worse than losing to the Bears?
Yes, because at least you're like, well, Justin Fields is his best game of a pro.
Made some plays.
Yeah. It's like,
exactly.
Colt McCoy and Cliff Kingsbury beat you. With who? Yeah, Rondale Moore was our best wide receiver. They had to bring a couple guys from practice squad and some other random guys on defense. You'd be like, what?
Yeah, because you'd say, guys, you just got this gift that you needed. You needed this. It was like when we were watching the Dolphins last week going, Tua, for this 14 parlay, will you just throw a pick six? And then Tua throws a pick. That was almost a pick six. It's a prayer. When you need it, it doesn't happen all the time. And they've got it right now.
Two teams that are kind of in shambles got gifts. And you have no excuse not to take advantage of it. The Chiefs and the 49ers. Wait, we don't get Kyler Murray and Aaron Rodgers? It's okay. I text somebody with the Chiefs like, yeah, I'm not complaining about it. Right? They're not like, shucks. We would have loved to get all the Chiefs fans to see Aaron. No, you want to see your team win.
Avatar Singh says, when things start going bad for the Cardinals, it explodes, never stops. History. It's true. I mean, when things go bad for the Cardinals, the Cardinals' lows are low.
Still think, I still stand by. It's going to be very, very difficult, even for an implosion, for them not to end up with 10 wins. And I just don't see how 10 wins you're not dancing, right?
Yeah, 10 wins you're dancing in the NFC. The AFC, but in the NFC you should be dancing with 10 wins.
I think even in the AFC, 10 wins this year, because it doesn't feel like that many teams are going to win 13 games, right? The Rams, the Packers might not, depending on how long he's out. Rams, Tampa, probably 13 plus. Who in the AFC is winning 13 games?
Well, why do you have to win 13 for 10 to not make? I mean, just people have to win 11.
Yeah, but I'm just getting like, you have usually your powerhouse teams, and then maybe like one team wins 11, and a lot win between that. Normally 9-7, 10-6 is like a sweet spot, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams right now that are. I won't even count Denver. I said it earlier: Cleveland, Kansas City, New England, the Chargers, the Steelers, the Bengals. So those 6 teams competing for 3 playoff spots in the AFC.
The Bengals would be a double whammy this week, because if they win, they'd be 6-3, and they'd kind of knock Cleveland